Well, another day, another Edward Snowden leak detailing the NSA spying on other countries. This time, CBC News broke the story with journalist Glenn Greenwald's help. The broadcaster revealed largely redacted documents that detail how the American spy agency conducted widespread surveillance during the 2010 G8 and G20 Summits. CBC News wrote, the briefing notes stamped top secret show the U.S. turned its Ottawa embassy into a security compound post during the 6-day spying operation by the National Security Agency. While U.S. President Barack Obama and 25 other foreign heads of government were on Canadian soil in June of 2010, the covert U.S. operation was no secret to Canadian authorities. So apparently Canadian authorities not only knew about the spying that was going on in their country, but they may have even participated in it. And that has privacy advocates crying foul. I was joined earlier by Steve Anderson, Executive Director of the OpenMedia Group, for more on the latest docu-drop. And I first asked him whether we should be really surprised that this spying was going on or that Canada allowed it to go on in their country in the first place, despite all of the recent NSA surveillance revelations.
I think it will be surprising to most Canadians that we would allow, that our government would formally allow a foreign spy agency to spy on our soil, to actually go into our country, set up spying operations, and monitor people in Canada, in this case Toronto, Canada, during the G20. I think that's a huge surprise to many Canadians. It's a surprise to me. Maybe it shouldn't be with all the revelations, but I just think that's much further than I thought they would go. You know, I thought they might collaborate and share our data, and that was a concern to us at OpenMedia.ca and many others, but I really did not expect them to allow the U.S. NSA to spy on people in Canada.
And is there any evidence as to how far these links went between the U.S. and Canada in cooperating with these efforts?
It's hard to say. From what we've seen, we know that there was some sort of a formal agreement, and we know that they brought in equipment. They had a kind of very robust operation in Toronto, but aside from that, it's not completely clear. The documents that have been shared so far haven't been totally clear on that point.
And what about the evidence? Is there anything valuable that we know of came from these spying efforts?
I haven't heard of anything valuable that came of it, and I think that actually goes to a larger issue, which is how much does all of this spying cost? You know, this spying without our consent. In Canada, we're talking about spending $4 billion of our tax dollars to house these new spying operations, and we know it's out of control. You know, we're spying on diplomats. There's a question of if Canadians are being caught up in this dragnet surveillance. We're spying on our allies in Brazil. So we don't know the value of it, and I think that would be really nice if we actually had a value proposition put before the Canadian public.
Now, last month, your OpenMedia.ca group joined with the BC Civil Liberties Association to form a lawsuit alleging that Canada's spy agency is illegal and unconstitutional, what it is doing anyway. Have you made any progress on that, or have you heard anything back?
So far, we haven't heard anything back, but we expect in the coming weeks and months for the government to make its views known. We're hoping that they will participate as a willing party in the case and bring forward information and really use this as an opportunity to come clean with Canadians on what's going on with our spy agency in Canada, how secure is our data, how many Canadians are being swept up. So I think this is a real opportunity for them, but so far we haven't heard anything from them on the matter.
And what types of changes would you like to see? Is it mostly transparency related? Or are we talking about viable changes and really reining in Canada's spy agency?
Well, I think first we need transparency. We need some sort of a public review. We need answers. How many Canadians are being caught up? You know, what of our information is being caught up in these huge unsecured databases? So we need those kinds of questions answered. And then I think we need to have some sort of policies in place that ensure that any spying that goes on is really targeted, that there is oversight and accountability, and really that if our data is being swept up, that it's kept safe, because We know that in recent years we've had over 3,000 breaches of sensitive citizen data affecting approximately 725,000 Canadians. And so at the very least, if we're going to have our data in these databases, the government needs to come clean about that. We need to know how many people are caught up in those databases, and we need to have some assurances that our data is safe from cyber criminals and that sort of thing.
Now, in the people that you've talked to, in the reports that you've done or that you've read, do you think that it is Canada's spy agency which is really taking the initiative here to widen and broaden the people that it spies on? Or do you think that the NSA is possibly behind it, pushing Canada's spy agency to really be part of that Five Eyes alliance?
Yeah, I think there's a strange confluence happening. I think definitely the U.S., the NSA is really pushing the envelope on spying. They're engaging in bulk spying on people really around the world, including people in the U.S. and I suspect Canada. But from what we've been seeing, I saw a quote yesterday in a report saying that, from the ex-head of CSEC saying, we want to play with the big boys. So I think that there is kind of definitely a kind of entrepreneurial aspect of what CSEC is doing, where they really want to be a big player in this kind of spying activities, even though, I don't think Canadians are really interested in that. They seem to be, and, we've heard that they've taken civil servants on kind of lobbying expeditions within CSEC operations to kind of wow them and to get more money, and that's why their budget has ballooned, and that's why it's, CSEC will now be housed in the most expensive government building in Canadian history, which is just amazing to me.
That was Steve Anderson, Executive Director of OpenMedia.